Welcome back, crime fighters, for another edition of Calhoun County's Most Wanted, the program where you get to help make Calhoun County a better and safer place for all of us. I'm Chris Wright, joined by Lieutenant Ronnie Murray from the Calhoun County Sheriff's Office.
Good to see you again.
Yeah, it's good that we're not floating away right now.
It's been pretty bad the last few days.
We've had a lot of rain. It has not been typical flooding, has it? We've had areas here in the last few days that have flooded where we don't normally. Some of the areas we see flooding on a fairly regular basis. Other areas, it's been a surprise for people.
It has. I think people, they overlook flooding sometimes. They don't really see how dangerous it is. 6 inches of water, it can knock you off your feet. 6 inches of running water knock you off your feet. 12 inches of running water, it's enough to move a car and make it go out of control. 24 inches of water, it's going to sweep your vehicle away. And a lot of these areas that we're seeing flooding right now, it's up there. It's between 12 and 24 inches of water. It's bad.
It's a dangerous situation, especially when people are driving in the dark. That adds an extra element to it because you don't necessarily see the water on the road before you get to it, which I think is one of the reasons why schools decided to open early, open late.
Yeah, we had a 2-hour delay this morning. We have SROs at the Calhoun County Sheriff's Office, school resource officers. They were in on time, driving the roads to make sure that the buses were safe to pass in areas around the schools and in the county. So that's a big help, not only to us, but to the schools. Not only just flooding trees. I mean, when there's a lot of water, trees tend to fall. If there's just a little bit of wind, you may have a tree come down. It may be at, just a little bit above head high, hanging over a road, and that's a bad accident waiting to happen.
The more saturated the ground is with the rain, the easier it is for the heavy winds and potentially tornadoes that we might even see tonight to knock those trees down.
Yes, always have a plan of action, be ready to go. I know the Sheriff's Office, Sheriff Wade and Chief Meter, they keep our Facebook up to date and our website up to date with weather information, so make sure you're following your local news and our Facebook.
All right. Let's take a quick look at the work that you did for us. Just one arrest from our list this week. We had a couple of weeks ago, we had 14, so we're going to have some weeks that are higher and some weeks that are lower, but you've never let us down. You've always helped us find at least one of the people that we were looking for, so thank you very much, and we will start this week's lineup, the first half of that coming up right after the break here on Calhoun County's Most Wanted.
Hi, I'm Nancy Hilton with the Calhoun County Sheriff's Office. Remember how folks used to say the perfect mate for them was tall, dark, handsome, and rich? Do you feel that you have found that person of your dreams online? Are they a high-ranking officer in the military, or an engineer, or a doctor working overseas, or someone who works on an oil rig? Have they said all the right things that you want to hear, like, I need you, I'll take care of you and protect you, and I love you, and you make me complete? Surprisingly, they have professed their love for you quickly and have started making plans for marriage. Then they ask you not to tell anyone about your relationship. Did they ask to text you away from the website where you met? Have you ever even talked to them on the phone? Do you know their voice? Do they plan to visit, but something always comes up with their job, passport, or some type of emergency? Do they always need you to send money for something like retirement and travel funds, or even a child's birthday? These are well-known ways scammers work to steal your money and break your heart. Remember, you never really know who is behind that screen photo and keyboard, so be cautious out there.
Looking for love in all the right places? Like popular dating sites, mobile apps, and social networking sites? Ron seems like a perfect match for you. He's thoughtful and says he can't live without you. He says he's from the U.S. but works out of the country. He says he wants to visit but says he can't afford it. He asks you to send him money. Last month it was medical bills for his sick aunt. This month he needs money to fix his car. Next month, who knows? Ron wants your money. Don't send it. The person pretending to be Ron is a scammer. He'll tell you anything to get you to wire cash right away. He'll never run out of excuses. If an online love interest asks you for money, walk away, no matter how compelling the story. Report scams at ftc.gov/imposters.
All right, let's get started with this week's lineup on Calhoun County's Most Wanted. If you recognize anybody in this list and can help us find them, please contact Calhoun County Crime Stoppers at 256-238-1414. We start with Winfred Carden of Jacksonville, wanted for failure to pay for assault first degree. Tiffany Spanks of Anniston, wanted on a failure to appear warrant for theft of property second degree. Jillian Booth of Lincoln, wanted for failure to pay for use and possession of drug paraphernalia. Charles Everett of Anniston, wanted on a failure to appear warrant for use and possession of drug paraphernalia. Jeffrey Offord of Talladega is wanted on a failure to appear warrant for promoting prison contraband. Curtis Bellamy of Atlanta is wanted on a failure to appear warrant for possession of a forged instrument. That's just the first half of this week's lineup. We'll have more for you coming up in just a few minutes. All right, let's get into our interview part of the show where we talk about something that's happening in the community. And Ronnie, we got a big thing going on in our community right now talking about the homelessness issue, which I know you encounter on the streets every day with the sheriff's office.
We do, quite a bit, not so much out in the rural part of the county, but some of the police jurisdictions that we help out in, we run into them from time to time, and it seems to be a big problem all across America right now. It seems to be getting worse. Mm-hmm. I don't think we're as bad off as, say some cities on the West Coast, but seems like we're getting some help here, so maybe it won't get that bad here.
Hopefully so. Lori Floyd is our guest, and Lori is the executive director director. She runs the right place, which I should know the technical, title for you because I'm on the board. But I just know that you're the one that's handling everything. That's what matters. Lori does a great job of working directly with the homeless in our community and at the same time thinking about the big picture, not just the day-to-day of what this individual person needs, but the overall, what are some things that are working in other communities? What can we bring home to Anniston, Alabama to help our city and help the members of our city that don't have a place to live?
Yeah, I think we're really excited about the opportunity to have a shelter in the area that is a low barrier shelter. I know we've had shelters in the past, but a lot of them had limitations of being able to get in for care. They charged a fee for one thing. A lot of the shelters that we have, I know in the beginning it was $5 to stay at the Salvation Army, and for homeless that might as well be $500. Right. So we're trying to look at eliminating some of the barriers that were keeping people out and figure out a way to keep them in and get them moving in a direction that will improve their life. Mm-hmm. Bandages sometimes are the only thing that we've been able to use, and now we want to move them forward.
So for anybody that's been watching the news, they've probably heard about this potential homeless shelter that we may very soon have in Anniston. The Right Place has been working together with the United Way and Interfaith Ministries and the city of Anniston. And we've got a building that is currently being used by an assisted living facility. Mm-hmm. And the company is willing to turn over not only the building, but the beds inside it.
Yes.
And all these things that are just a dream come true.
It is.
For somebody trying to help the homeless.
And I know this building has been standing for quite some time, but it was a fallout shelter originally, I think, when it was developed, and they have done quite a bit of work with it already. They have new central heating and cooling in it. It's already it's at code to be a nursing home. So as far as the age of the building and its structure, it's pretty sound. So the opportunity to have something like this with not only the donation items, the free beds, the free kitchen, the free everything that's coming with it, that's kind of like a dream come true.
And it coincides with a grant of a very substantial amount of money to provide emergency services for homeless in Anniston.
Right. We were very fortunate that United Way and the Right Place and Interfaith was able to get this grant through the state. I think there's some confusion of where that grant came from. It is not through the city of Anniston at all. It is something that we received independently to do a shelter, and that is the purpose of this funding. So we wrote for the application for it, we were able to receive the funding, and now we're trying to partner with the city to get a location that will be adequate based on their requirements as a city to have a shelter in our community.
And of course, I don't think there's ever been a homeless shelter that's been created without a little bit of resistance in the community. People have concerns with one of the things that we've been hearing with people that have concerns right now is we just don't know. We haven't been told what this is going to be. And a lot of people, I think, are surprised at some of the things that are being planned for the shelter, because it's not just a place for people to sleep overnight.
True. I mean, we know right now that without any kind of structured programs, our homeless are just having to walk the streets every day. As yesterday, it was pouring down rain, and all of our friends were coming in off the street just dripping wet. Imagine if we had a community where their option was not just wandering the street all day. They could actually be productive. They could look for jobs. We could assist them with medical services that they may need. We could help them overcome some of the challenges that are really hard for them to overcome when they have limited resources. So we get to know them, we build a relationship with them, and then we work with them to overcome some of those challenges with the outcome of them becoming citizens again. I mean, that's our total outcome, is not that they'll live with us forever. We are an emergency shelter with the idea of them being able to be independent citizens of their own.
So is it not just about housing the homeless that we currently have, it's about reducing the amount of people who are homeless?
Absolutely.
Even though they're not necessarily staying at the shelter anymore, they're in a permanent home. They've gotten their life back in order.
Right. I mean, I think a lot of people assume that homeless are just the ones that are wanting to be there. You know, everybody in our community are one paycheck away from being on the street themselves. And if you have a crisis that occurs, that either a medical crisis or you get fired from a job or laid off from a job, how many times has that happened in this community? And these people end up on the street. We've had lots of people who have experienced a fire. You don't plan for things like that, and now they find them and their children homeless.
And without an emergency shelter, the risk of them becoming permanently homeless is so much larger.
Absolutely. We see it all the time. We have families living in cars because their house burned. They didn't plan for that. And so if we had a shelter like this, it would be able to not only keep a family structure together when they're going through such a crisis, but it would be a safety net for them to then get back on their feet and get back into the society.
All right. We need to take a quick break, but we've got some more things we want to talk about. We will be back in just a few moments here on Calhoun County's Most Wanted. All right, here we go with the second half of this week's lineup on Calhoun County's Most Wanted. Riley DeMille of Heflin is wanted on probation revocation for illegal possession of prescription drugs and use and possession of drug paraphernalia. Marty Kirby of Anniston wanted for domestic violence, third-degree harassment. DeMarcus Byers of Oxford wanted on probation revocation for domestic violence, third-degree assault, and resisting arrest. Lisa Smith of Anniston wanted for child abuse. Abu Bakar Doumbia, probably pronouncing that wrong, but try my best. He's from Atlanta, and he is wanted on a probation violation for trafficking in stolen identities. Devious Woods of Oxford is wanted on a failure to appear warrant for fraudulent use of a credit card. Mario Galaviz of Anniston wanted on a failure to appear warrant for domestic violence, third-degree harassment. Do you have information about anybody in this lineup? If so, please contact Calhoun County Crime Stoppers at 256-238-1414. All right, we are back, and we will have some more information that we need from you in a few minutes, talk about some property crimes, but right now we're talking with Lori Floyd of The Right Place, trying to address the homeless issue in Anniston and Calhoun County. And Lori, can we get personal for a second here? You probably know what I'm about to ask you about, because this is something that is really personal to you. It's not just your work that you do every day, it's connections and friendships. And you recently, when we had the day where we were counting the homeless in our community, you came upon a very unpleasant surprise. Tell us about that if you don't mind.
I found my friend Fred dead in an abandoned house. I knew that he had not been around for a while, and I had asked several people if they'd seen him. We had talked about in other organizations, have you seen Fred? Have you had any contact with him? And I happened to know what house he normally stayed in, and so when we went out for the count, that was the first place that I went. And unfortunately, I found him dead in this house. And it was so heartbreaking because you know, if we'd had a shelter, would that have happened? You know, is it possible that we could have worked with him if he was having health issues to make it better for him? But the idea of somebody having to die alone in an abandoned house is just heart-wrenching to me. And I would hope that we could find a solution that wouldn't continue to happen.
Yeah. I don't think anybody argues that we don't need a homeless shelter in Anniston. There are some people that are arguing that this may not be the right place, which is probably the wrong term to use since that's the name of the organization. But and you're always going to have some concerns there. What's being done to try to meet some of the concerns?
Well, we're talking to anybody that will listen to us. I mean, if you have concerns and you have questions about how we're going to do it, ask us. You know, Facebook is a terrible place and it's a great place. Yeah. You can either get really good information or you could get really bad information. And so it's always good to go to the source. If you have a question, ask us. We'll be glad to tell you how we plan to do it. This is not something I woke up one day and said, hey, I think I'll run an emergency shelter. We have lots of planning in this. We have policies and procedures and guidelines and who we're going to hire and what requirements they're going to have. This is going to be job opportunities for people in the community. This is going to be big, and we plan to continue to grow and develop it into programs that are amazing. And the idea of Anniston being known for something really good is a great thing in our eyes.
From a law enforcement perspective, from time to time we do get calls asking for assistance at the sheriff's office. How would we go about reaching out to you guys and saying, hey, I have this gentleman or this lady that needs a place to stay? What are the criteria, you know, that we as law enforcement will know, hey, we can get you to the right place and you'll have a place to stay tonight? So can you explain a little bit of your criteria for law enforcement moving forward on what we can and can't do as far as bringing someone down?
I think that's the great thing about having a low barrier shelter is that there is no criteria to keep them out. You know, they are welcome, family units are welcome, individuals are welcome. And that way we can kind of assess the situation of what's going on and kind of guide them in a direction to improve their outcomes. So yes, we would hopefully partner with the sheriff's office, with the police department. We want everybody to know that we're there and what we can do together to solve this problem. I know that a lot of people run into homeless people on the street who are in abandoned houses. You know, this is something that will hopefully eliminate some of that thing. And if we're not working together to solve the problem, we're not going to be able to solve it. So our plan is definitely to have a close relationship with the sheriff's office and the city of Anniston and the surrounding areas.
And when you say low barrier, that doesn't mean no supervision.
No, it does not. Low barrier means that it keeps them from having things that would allow them not to come in, not that we're not going to have rules and regulations and things that they will have to follow. A lot of places it's a one and done kind of theory. If you do something, then you're kicked out for life. That's not the concept when you're doing low barrier shelter. It's being able to figure out what is causing them to be homeless and work on those skills to improve their outcomes.
All right. Well, Lori, we could talk about this forever, but unfortunately we're about out of time. But if people want to ask some questions, they can call the right place.
Absolutely.
All right. We will be back in just a few minutes. We will have the Crime Stoppers segment of the show, talk about some property crimes we need your help with, and we'll have our Crazy Criminal of the Week on Calhoun County's Most Wanted. All right, let's see if you can help us out with any of these recent property crimes. On February 6th, a home on Gilbert's Ferry Road in Ohatchee was burglarized. A Glock handgun, a large quantity of jewelry and medication as well were stolen. Between January 27th and February 1st, a home was illegally entered on Riches Lane in Jacksonville. Miscellaneous hand tools and power tools, some family pictures, and also assorted military awards were taken. Between January 20th and January 27th, a white 2007 Kawasaki Prairie four-wheeler was stolen from a residence on Benefield Gap Road in Piedmont. If you have any information about these crimes or others, please contact Calhoun County Crime Stoppers at 256-238-1414.
Stupid! You're so stupid!
All right, so I know you appreciate it when the criminals make your job easier, don't you?
Absolutely, we love it.
If only everybody that's carrying around drugs would keep them in a bag that said bag full of drugs, right?
That would be great.
Well, I got a couple of individuals in Florida did exactly that. They had a couple of bags that are actually sold on the internet to be for ladies to carry around cosmetics in. And I don't know why somebody thinks that's a good idea, but these two gentlemen, they had these bags in their car, and they got pulled over, and the officer says, "I'd like to see what's in that bag full of drugs."
I think sometimes they believe we're a little slow when it comes to it. They don't think we'll look in it because it says a bag full of drugs. That type of reverse psychology doesn't work with us. So.
Yeah, so you can see there on the table they've got several items. I don't know what each and every one of those is. Matter of fact, I'm not sure what any of those are, to be honest.
Well, that's a good thing.
But I know that those are items you're not supposed to have.
Yes, sir.
So, yeah, if you are going to be driving around with drugs in your car, go ahead and please put those properly labeled so the law enforcement can deal with it swiftly.
We'd appreciate it very much.
That's all the time that we've got for this week. We'll be looking for you again next week, but hopefully not in the lineup on Calhoun County's Most Wanted.